What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today I don't have my co-host Alex Wilson with me because he's having a real busy day, so I'm going solo dolo for you guys, trying to discuss some topics coming from Giants training camp. Of course, we've been giving you the daily updates on Giants training camp. We're 4 days through. Today, they're having a little bit of a break. No practice on this Sunday, but tomorrow, Monday, really exciting day for the Giants at training camp because it's the first practice with pads. That's right, boys. The Giants are putting the pads on, and I can't wait to see that happen. I can't wait to get some action, some hard hitting over at practice. Hopefully nothing too hard. Don't want to see any injuries at Giants training camp, but I'm excited to see the physicality get ramped up as we start to gear up towards the preseason, which is only a couple short weeks away, if that. I don't remember the exact date, but it's real soon. It's right around the corner. And then after preseason, we go right into the regular season, man. I can't wait. And we got you covered right here on Fireside Giants. So let's go ahead and discuss today's topic. Of course, we're going to be talking about 3 position battles for you to keep an eye on during Giants training camp as the pads are getting thrown on. And I'm going to dive right ahead into the center position. Okay, that's the one we're going to discuss first. Center/backup center. Now, it seems like John Feliciano is still the lock for the center position. We know that he was signed to be the starting center this offseason, but Feliciano is traditionally a guard. His natural position in the NFL is the guard position. That's what he played with the Buffalo Bills, but the Giants did sign him to be the center. In fact, when they announced the signing on their Twitter account, the headline was New York Giants signed John Feliciano to be starting center. So that's kind of a lock. If that's the press release they're putting out there, they didn't say sign veteran offensive lineman John Feliciano. They said no, they signed their starting center, which I thought was really interesting. That caught my eye, and it's kind of stuck with me throughout this offseason. But so far, we've seen a little bit of a shakeup here at practice, right? Because John Feliciano dealing with some heat and hydration issues. It's really freaking hot out. The weather is murder. Be careful when you're going outside. John Feliciano getting affected by it. Had to take a couple days off of practice, and something really interesting happened once he started to take a couple practices off, right? You would think Jamil Douglas, backup center, takes that position over for the first team. He did for the first day, but he really struggled. So something really interesting happened on the second day of John Feliciano's absence. Shane Lemieux moved from left guard to center and apparently had a very strong practice day. Gave Dexter Lawrence the work all day. It culminated into a big brawl between he and Lawrence, a big fist fight on the field, which you don't really love to see, but also sometimes you kind of do love to see because you love to see Shane Lemieux doesn't put up with anybody's shit and he's going out there and he's knocking some heads, which is exactly what you want from your center. I love the mentality that Shane Lemieux plays with. I know I've been very critical of him in the past, and I will continue to be critical of Giants players when the criticism is deserved, but I do think so far he deserves praise for everything that he's done this offseason. Coming off of that injury last year, we barely got to see Shane Lemieux play. He was the projected starter, started in week 1, but only played 17 snaps, had to pull himself out. That patellar tendon just got worse and worse, and he had to have season-ending surgery. Very unfortunate end to Shane Lemieux's sophomore season, but going into year 3, he's primed once again to be the starting left guard, and I'm really excited to see what he can bring to the table. Now, I was rooting, and I still am rooting for Joshua Ezeudu, the third-round pick, 67th overall pick in the Giants draft class this year. I'm really rooting for him to push for that starting job, and that's kind of something else that I want to talk about. After we talk about the center position, we're going to go into the left guard position for another position battle, but those kind of go in tandem here, and I'll explain why. At center, John Feliciano has been good. He's that veteran that Bobby Johnson, our new offensive line coach, already has a relationship with. So he wants him to be the quarterback of the offensive line, play there at center. But you take a look at it, what if John Feliciano isn't really earning that role? I don't want anybody to be given jobs anymore, right? This is something my co-host Alex says all the time. In the past, the Giants have just been giving jobs away. Everybody should be earning their jobs, and I completely agree with that. John Feliciano is no different. He needs to earn this job. So what if Shane Lemieux outperforms John Feliciano for the rest of camp and actually looks better at center than he does at left guard? Well, then maybe we should have a discussion about who the backup center should be at the very least. Should Shane Lemieux be the one that fills in during the regular season if, God forbid, John Feliciano gets hurt? Or should Jamil Douglas step in at center despite his struggles in camp, and Shane Lemieux should remain at left guard? That's the interesting discussion to have here, because Joshua Ezeudu also looked pretty decent at left guard in that practice. Of course, got to wait till the pads come on. The pads are going to come on Monday, and once we see that, that's when we really get to take a look at these offensive linemen. Once these offensive linemen have pads on, we can really evaluate them, say who's playing better than who's playing worse, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure as the pads come on. So Let's say Shane Lemieux continues to play center at practice and plays really well. Well, then I think the discussion that needs to be had is not should he take over John Feliciano's starting job. I do still believe John Feliciano is going to lock that in, but I think the discussion is if John Feliciano has to leave the lineup during the regular season, who moves to center? The backup center, Jamil Douglas, does he step up? Or do you move Shane Lemieux over and you have a competition at left guard? Who's the backup left guard or who's the starter for the rest of the season if it comes down to that, right? And I think Joshua Zito is going to move into that left guard spot pretty seamlessly. I think it's already something that he's competing for right now, which is the other position battle. We're going to talk about the left guard position battle next, but let me know down below what you think of the backup center. Should Jamil Douglas continue to be the backup center or on the depth chart, second string, depth chart, that was pretty bad, right? Depth chart, should the second string center actually be Shane Lemieux over Jamil Douglas? Maybe Jamil Douglas is a third string, if that's the move that you think they should make, let me know down below. And of course, in that scenario, like I said, you would have Joshua Ezeudu stepping up into the first string left guard spot if John Feliciano is to leave the lineup. But another name that I do want to throw out there is Nick Gates. Joe Shane actually said that Nick Gates has a possibility of playing during the preseason. Now, this is really interesting to me because we've been talking about Nick Gates, really ever since his injury, just a gruesome, devastating injury. Some people believe that could be career ending. And in fact, Nick Gates even believed that at a time. They thought that this could be a very serious injury that Nick Gates maybe just can't recover from. But now Joe Shane is saying Nick Gates has a chance to play in the preseason, which is super exciting, and just throws another name into the mix for the backup at center. So again, should the backup center be Lemieux, Douglas, or Nick Gates? Because Nick Gates was a really solid starting center for the Giants in 2020. He made that move to left guard, then got injured last season. But keep in mind, he also has played right guard and right tackle. So I still think the best avenue for Nick Gates to be on this team and have a place, like a role with this team, is to just be that blanket backup offensive lineman. No specific position, positionless offensive lineman. Anytime there's an injury on the line, you call upon Nick Gates. And I'm really hoping that he is healthy enough to play during the preseason so that the Giants can get a good eval on him and move accordingly into the regular season with where they want to place Nick Gates, what they want to designate his position to be, and what they want his role for him to be. But keep in mind, Nick Gates could be coming back soon enough, which could throw another name into the mix at center. But let's talk about left guard, because one of the names that we haven't heard a whole lot about is Max Garcia. Max Garcia was signed this offseason, a veteran guy, used to play with the Cardinals, was a Pro Bowl alternate last season, and we haven't heard a peep, right? He was signed hopefully to compete for the left guard position, but so far he's been playing with the second team at right guard, which is super interesting because that means Joshua Ezeudu is actually the one competing for that left guard spot. So you can almost kind of throw Garcia out of the mix here, and you could say that you're probably looking at left guard starter Shane Lemieux and backup Joshua Ezeudu with the hope that Joshua Ezeudu can maybe one day progress and develop into a starter, and then maybe you move Shane Lemieux to center. That could be really interesting. Keep the Giants offensive line young, a lot of potential with a move like that. Now, I'm actually going to discuss, I know it says 3 position battles. I'm going to discuss 4 because I kind of just discussed left guard. Of course, I went over center. We're going to switch to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to give you 2 positional battles to take a look at. The first one is slot cornerback, and I think there is one name just running away with this position right now, and that's Darnay Holmes. First 3 days of camp, he had an interception every day. 4th day, he forced a fumble of Saquon Barkley. The dude is balling out, and I'm all the way here for it. I love Darnay Holmes. I love what he brings to the table. I thought he was a great draft pick back in 2019 or 20. Which one was it? But the Giants drafted him 2020, and I really like what he brings to the table. Out of UCLA, he was an outside cornerback during his collegiate career at UCLA. Gets to the Senior Bowl. They move him into the slot due to size concerns. He plays extremely well there, gets drafted to be a slot cornerback by the Giants' previous regime. And now we're talking about him locking down that starting slot nickel cornerback position. And I think that it's time, dude. I think he has been playing really well throughout his career. He's looked really solid. He's dealt with a couple injuries here and there during the regular seasons, but I do think that Darnay Holmes has looked really good for the Giants in his playing time during the regular season. And now he's here and he's looking like a new and improved version of himself, even better than he was before. And I think that's huge when you take a look at it because there is a competition going on at slot cornerback. Now, let's go over a couple of these other names that could be competing. And in fact, one of them is also having a really good camp. Cordell Flat, he recently had an interception. He's looked really good. Third round pick for the New York Giants this season out of LSU. Lanky, tall cornerback. Not the strongest guy, pretty skinny, but he's tall, he's lanky, he's got length to him. Some people thought he'd be a better fit on the outside because of his length, but he's really traditionally a slot cornerback. That's his natural position, and he could compete for that spot. And I want to go ahead and jump to another name here. This is a guy who I feel like has fallen back in this race and has not performed up to expectations through 4 days of camp. Aaron Robinson, he has not looked the best so far. He's gotten burned a few times. He had a situation where he tackled somebody apparently. And again, mind you, there's no pads on, so not a cool move there. Tackled somebody, and I know coaches were unhappy about it. So Aaron Robinson looks like he's not playing the best right now. He might end up getting the starting job at cornerback too, but that's really not because of how well he's playing so far through camp. That's just because of the lack of depth that the Giants have at outside cornerback. That boundary corner role opposite of Adoree Jackson, that is a very worrisome position for me. And I know a lot of you Giants fans agree with me. That's a position that we should be worried about because Adoree Jackson, yes, great player, injury prone player, and he's the cornerback number one on this roster. So who's opposite of him that we can rely on, maybe more or less than him considering the injuries? That's a big question mark. And you could bring Cordell Flat into that mix since he is tall and he has the length to play on the outside. Aaron Robinson, again, tall, has the length and physicality to play on the outside, but hasn't been playing well in the slot. So I think that he's kind of out of the race for slot cornerback. You're going to throw him on the outside. And then the race at slot cornerback becomes Darnay Holmes, who's leading right now, in my opinion. Cordell Flat on his heels. And I also think you want to throw Dane Belton into the mix. Rookie, I think he was a fourth round pick by the Giants this year, I want to say, out of Iowa. He was traditionally a cash linebacker safety hybrid, nickel cornerback, linebacker, safety, did it all for Iowa's defense. And he's somebody that could potentially be in the mix at slot cornerback, but he's also in the mix for the other position battle that I want to throw out there, and that is free safety. Now, or free safety, strong safety, it remains to be seen, in my opinion, where exactly Xavier McKinney's going to play. I know everybody's like, oh, he's the starting free safety. He played a lot of strong safety last year, and he has traditionally played a lot of strong safety throughout his career. I think the Giants are really just going to be playing a single high safety primarily in Wink Martindale's system, and he's going to be that single high. But when you got two safeties on the field, who's the other safety? Julian Love, Dane Belton. You could even throw Cordell Flat into that mix because Cordell Flat has played a little bit of safety before, and some people had him projected as a safety in the NFL coming out of LSU. So that's going to be really interesting to me as well. Personally, I think Julian Love is going to lock that down. He's already got starting experience in the NFL, and I do think Julian Love is a very solid quality player. But keep in mind, Dane Belton has looked really good at camp, had an interception recently, has been playing really well. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a battle start to come through here, see who's more physical once the pads are on, see who's got better awareness, reaction skills, all of that kind of stuff when you're taking a look at it with the New York Giants. I do think there are a few reasons to believe that there could be a battle brewing at that safety position. So I'm very curious to see how that one shapes out. I do think that Julian Love is going to take it over. But again, there's a lot of question marks in the New York Giants secondary right now. Again, Adoree Jackson is the starting cornerback. Who's playing opposite of him? The starting nickel cornerback appears to be Darnay Holmes, but injury question marks and, somebody could outperform him during the preseason. That's completely possible. And then the safety position, Xavier McKinney is a star. I think he could really establish himself to be a top 10 cornerback or safety rather in the NFL this upcoming season. But who's playing next to him? Who's the other safety on this roster? Keep in mind the Giants just dismantled their safety group from last year. You had Jabril Peppers as the starter, gone. You had Logan Ryan, gone. Two leaders on the Giants defense, gone out of here. And then you take a look at, of course, James Bradbury departing this offseason as well. Super interesting because it left a massive hole opposite of Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson was signed to be a CB2 for this team. Now he's a CB1, and the Giants are without an established CB2, starting over there. I know that there's some other guys that the Giants have signed this offseason, some low-key veterans that used to play with the Ravens, are familiar with Wink Martindale. Maybe one of those guys will take the position, but that's going to be super interesting to see position battle. I know I said we were going to do 3. But I really hit on about 5 different position battles in this video. CB2 is one to keep an eye on as the pads come on. Slot cornerback, absolutely, as I mentioned, and also safety. Keep an eye on that as well. And then on the offensive side of the ball, in the playmaker groups, I don't think that there's much of a position battle going on at any of the playmaker positions. I think the receivers are kind of going to be established. It's really just who's falling where on the depth chart. Kenny Galladay's your number one. Opposite of him, once Sterling Shepard's healthy, he's going to be that guy that plays outside, inside slot, but probably that Y receiver position or Z receiver position rather, playing yard back off the line of scrimmage and just being that outside guy opposite of Kenny Galladay. But then in the slot, you're going to have like a little bit of a tandem there. You're going to have Kadarius Toney. You're going to have Wan'Dale Robinson. Those are all established spots. Running back is established. I don't think there's a real position battle going on at quarterback, despite what that man and the mysterious man who continues to get a lot of clicks from his articles, Pat Leonard, is saying. I don't think that Tyrod Taylor is on the heels of Daniel Jones here. Daniel Jones is going to be the starting quarterback, and dude, not a chance the Giants are trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. Mark my words, that's not going to happen. If it does, I don't know what I'll do, but you guys can tell me what I have to do in the comment section below. But I'm telling you, I guarantee it, it's not going to happen. The real position battles on this team are on the offensive line. Again, tight end, Daniel Bellinger has been playing as the TE1, the rookie that we have really high hopes on. We were hoping he would be the TE1, and he has been so far, which is super exciting. Behind him, we can have a discussion over who's TE2, but that's not too exciting. The offensive line is where the position battles are. Who's going to be the center in case John Feliciano gets injured, and who is going to end up being the day one starter at left guard, and who starts in place of Shane Lemieux if he has to move over to center at any point during the season. Again, the offensive line is super interesting, and the offensive line position battles haven't really kicked off yet because they kick off once the pads are on, and those come on tomorrow. Once again, I'm super excited to see the Giants get the pads on at training camp this Monday. I can't wait to discuss tomorrow afternoon after the practice wraps up. So make sure to subscribe to Fireside Giants down below. Ring the bell so you don't miss any of these awesome updates at training camp or anything regarding the New York Giants. Comment down below what position battle you are most excited for. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.